Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat?
A bunch of teams had reached out last year, and I talked to Jimmy Sexton, and just made it clear that if I don't retire as a Saint, then I wasn't going to play again. So that was kind of the determination.
That's Jimmy Graham. Met with reporters over the weekend at Saints camp and said point blank, he told his agent Jimmy Sexton, if I don't retire as Saint, I'm not playing again. Forgive me, y'all. There's just a lot of dynamics here that are tough to unpack. Play number one, he went on to say, this ain't the first time. The Saints traded Jimmy Graham back in 2015. And Graham has basically said since 2015, he has been trying to come back to New Orleans.
I've been trying to come home for a long time. And last year, had some conversations and determined that I really didn't want to play anywhere else. I had a couple teams that were reaching out. All teams that made the playoffs, and I just couldn't see myself wearing another jersey again. And just wanted, hopefully, if there was ever opportunity to come back home, to make it happen here, and it did, and I'm here now.
In his career, Jimmy Graham has made his contracts. Let me rephrase this: his contract values are approaching $100 million. His rookie deal was worth $2.4 million. Remember, he was a third-round pick, so the 4 years, $2.5 million, roughly. He played 1 year under the franchise tag at $7 million. He was, as we all remember, he was signed to the franchise tag, or he was tagged, and then ultimately the Saints did sign him to a 4-year, $40 million contract, and then promptly traded him to Seattle. So he played out that contract, then signed a 3-year, $30 million deal, and then a 2-year, $16 million deal with Chicago. My point is, Jimmy Graham's made a buttload of money. I don't know if he's good with his money, if he spent it. I don't know. By all accounts, seems like he's done well and good for him. But he has made a ton of money. He obviously loved being in New Orleans. It was the most productive years of his career. But then he was traded, and that feels like it would be very human to let that be contentious, right? You gave your all for this franchise. You wanted a long-term deal. They went to arbitration over the franchise tag. Ultimately, the Saints said, done. And they traded him. We can have the debate over who won that trade and time and whatever. I mean, that's a debate we could have or a conversation either way. But in spite of that, being cast away, it wasn't like he chose to leave in free agency. They traded him. But he still refers to New Orleans as home. That he's been trying to come back and wouldn't have played for anybody else. He was asked to sort of remember what it was like 8 years ago when he was traded. Here's what he said.
For me, it was pretty shocking, honestly. I thought I would never leave this place, and obviously it's a business. This league's a business, and I woke up to the part of the business that hurts. So for me, it was very difficult, but I didn't know I was going to a Super Bowl contender, and I know I had the opportunity to possibly make a run at a ring, and that's always been a goal for me. And But definitely moving across the country was a little different, but at first, yeah, it was very difficult because because my connection with Drew, as an older brother and all the people in this building, it was a family, so for me, a guy that doesn't have a lot of family, it was definitely a difficult time.
I mean, Drew Brees isn't here anymore. The only guy still on the roster that was here when Jimmy Graham is Cam Jordan. So he's coming back to a very different situation. So, and if you remember, you talked about a guy not having a lot of family. If you remember the story, Jimmy Graham was adopted, and you dealt with a lot of that insecurity, and it's part of the reason why he did attach himself so much to Drew Brees. I mean, it's a fascinating story, and you feel very good for that young guy who brought himself from a tough upbringing to achieve great things. It's just the fact that Jimmy Graham holds no resentment or ill will, and as a matter of fact, it's the complete opposite. It's a 180 from that. That he said he spent all this time trying to get back to New Orleans and told his agent, if it ain't New Orleans, I'm not playing again. Is a little just counter-cultural to what we expect in sports now, where you have ego and bravado and a lot of hurt feelings that accompany a lot of these deals. And guys carry resentment and use it as fuel and motivation to play against their former team and beat them. And Jimmy Graham saying, man, I just kept trying to get back here. I mean, it's easy. My point is, I don't know what my point is, quite honestly. I think I'm just confused. It's very easy to pull for this guy. That's number one. He was a great player when he was here. He gave his all. He played hurt at times and hated to leave and kept trying to come back, which makes you want to embrace him even more. But in such an ultra-competitive industry where guys carry their egos with them. I mean, by contrast, look at the current situation going on with the Sean Payton, Nathaniel Hackett, Aaron Rodgers thing. Like, Sean Payton making the comments he did about Nathaniel Hackett and the Jets has caused this, week-long windfall of war of words in the media. Now they're looking forward to week 5, and when the Jets go to Denver and, Rodgers is quoting Will Smith about keep my coach's names out your mouth, and, it's become a whole damn thing. Meanwhile, Jimmy Graham is like, man, I just always wanted to come back here. It's just maybe the thing that's so striking about it is that it is so atypical in a professional sports culture to have a guy handle the situation Jimmy Graham has. And hell, I hope it works for him, man. I hope he makes the team. I hope he has an awesome year at age 36, helps lead the Saints to a Super Bowl. I'm not sure I believe that's the reality, but boy, what a story that would be. Really interesting. I mean, 8 years later, he's answering questions like the thing happened yesterday. Few people have had that type of impact where that story could be told that many years later. We didn't have this conversation about Malcolm Jenkins. I mean, the Saints let Malcolm Jenkins walk in free agency to Philly and then ultimately brought him back. And Sean Payton acknowledged one of the biggest mistakes he ever made was letting Malcolm Jenkins go to Philly. And ultimately they signed Jarrett Spur out of that. I guess you can't go home. Jimmy Graham back in the black and gold. What a fascinating story. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.